When we changed our response, what it did was it opened up all of this space for healing to begin to take place. And that is really the journey we've been on for the last decade, is a journey of healing.
Welcome to the Honestly Adoption Podcast, a show about adoption, foster care, advocacy, and becoming the best caregiver possible. Pull up a chair. We're glad you've joined us. Here are your hosts, Mike and Kristen Berry.
Friends and family, welcome to the Honestly Adoption Podcast. It is so nice to have you here. My name is Mike Berry. I'm one of your hosts, and man, this is a special episode. Here's the deal. Yesterday, if you're listening to this on Friday, February 10th, when it releases, just yesterday on February 9th, I had the opportunity to host a free training called How to Effectively Respond to Your Child's Behaviors. And man, it went like gangbusters. We had nearly 400 people sign up for this, and we decided to do something really special because not only did I walk through a highly valuable and proven behavior response blueprint, super easy to apply, super easy to use, but I also shared a really special invitation as well as a super surprise gift when you listen to the episode, to the training. So yesterday, the webinar took place, the training took place. Close to 300 people showed up live. A lot of people were catching the replay, but we've made the replay available. We're going to share with you about 30 minutes of the training today on this episode, in this very podcast episode. And if you want more, again, it's free to sign up. Visit honestlyadoption.com/response, and you can get access for free. You can also click the links in our show notes because we're going to link it over there. But here's the deal. Because the exclusive invitation that I shared in the webinar to join our full-fledged behavior response workshop, because that's such an exclusive opportunity, this is only available for the next 6 days, actually. So expiring on Thursday, February 16th. So you have just a few days, depending on when you listen to this episode, to get access to it. So check out the training. We're going to share 30 minutes of it, and then visit honestlyadoption.com/response, and you can listen to the full training over there, as well as take advantage of the invitation that I share in the webinar itself, plus some of the exclusive free downloads. So don't miss that opportunity. Click the link now. Check out this episode. Here we go.
Hey, everybody. Welcome. Man, it is so good to be here. And already you guys are coming into the chat, to the live broadcast. This is amazing. I absolutely love these types of events. I love doing online. Let me get this off the screen. There we go. I'm on your screen. Full screen, man. There we go. Just take it all in here, right? I love doing these kinds of events because I get to connect with people from all over the world, which I'm doing right now. And if you're like, who is this guy talking? My name is Mike Berry. I'm one of the co-founders, co-CEOs of the Honestly Adoption Company. And you are here because you want to dive into behaviors. We're talking about how to effectively respond to your children's behaviors. And I just want to know real quick, as we're jumping in, we kicked this off a little bit early if you're just now joining us. But where are you listening from? Where are you joining me from? I see some of you guys are already dropping this into the chat. I'm joining you from central Indiana, Indianapolis, Indiana, just north of Indiana. I'm from Ohio, as you can see, Cincinnati Reds, go Reds. But here we go. Buffalo, New York, Southern Indiana. Welcome, Indiana. Minnesota, Alberta, New York, Michigan, Germany. Wow. Somebody said good morning a minute ago. Columbus, Ohio. Go Bucks. There we go. North Dakota, Arlington, Texas. Wow. All over the place. Somebody said good morning. I guess some of you that are on the Pacific coast, or maybe you're on the other side of the world. Anybody on the other side of the world in another country? I know we've got some Canadians here. We love our Canadian friends. We got a Northern Indiana. go Cubs, Southern Indiana. Okay, we'll accept that. You're all well. Everybody's welcome. You're all welcome, man. Naperville, Illinois, Indianapolis, give it up. There we go. Somebody in their own backyard. We're dealing with crazy high winds here in Indiana right now. So hopefully my roof doesn't blow off. Power doesn't go out. Florida's in the house. Man, this is fun, guys. This is absolutely fun. I love it because we get to connect. Like we're all in different parts of the world, and we get to connect with one another. We get to dive into a big topic that we're diving into today. And I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see you guys here. Man, it just keeps rolling. Cincinnati, Ohio, Massachusetts. Hey, Jenny. I know Jenny. Welcome, Jenny. I'm glad you're here. Georgia. Man, awesome. Well, listen, if you are just joining us, we kicked it off just a little bit early so I could interact with you guys as best as possible through a webinar because, you're there, I'm here, and all we have is the chat. I wish we could be face-to-face right now, but here we are. And if you are just joining us, welcome to you. Welcome to our free training entitled How to Effectively Respond to Your Children's Behaviors. I'm Mike Berry. I'm the host. I'm also co-founder of the Honestly Adoption Company. And a few things I want to tell you before we kick this thing off, just a couple of things, some housekeeping items. Number one, as I just mentioned, we're dealing with crazy high winds here in Indiana. If you're anywhere in the tri-state area, chances are you are too. I say that because if for any reason, hopefully on my end, I don't lose any power or internet connection, but if on your end you lose connection, or you lose sound, the best thing you can do is log out, click that link that we sent you to jump in, and then log back in. And here's why I say that, because in the wonderful World Wide Web, where you're at is different from where I'm at, different bandwidth, different internet browser. We can't control your connection. The best thing we can tell you is refresh the browser, maybe start the computer, jump back in. And don't worry, because we're going to provide a full replay. So if you have to miss anything, we got your back. Okay. So that's the connection. The other thing I want to tell you is, and I'll put this up on the screen. We sent this out to you over email. I'm actually going to be talking through our behavior response blueprint strategies. We sent this over email to you, a link to our actual behavior response blueprint. And I'm going to throw this back up here in the broadcast, make sure it comes up. That little gray button that says download now, if you didn't get your copy of the behavior response blueprint, you can click that link and it's gonna bring it up on the screen. You can download it. That is a companion to this teaching. The 4-step response blueprint. Along with that, we've actually included like scripts, go-to words that you can use to respond to your children. Sometimes we just need to know what words to say. So that blueprint, it's a free download. That comes with that, right? That gives you the framework, but then also the scripts you can use when things are getting tense, right? The temperature is rising. We know what that looks like. So download that, keep that. That's a resource for you, free download. So if you didn't get it through email, download it now. And then a couple other things. I know you guys have a lot of questions. What I'm going to do to make sure that I am super duper dialed into this teaching is in just a moment when I kick things off, I'm going to share my screen, put my slides up, and I am going to, I will not actually be able to see the chat while I'm teaching. So if you pose a question in the chat, I will not see it unless you reshare it at the end. So what I'm going to ask you to do is hold questions until the end, because I'm actually going to take as many questions as possible towards the end of the training, right? And you want to plan for about 90 minutes here, right? We're about 4 minutes in, so I'm in Eastern Standard Time. We'll conclude by about 1:30. That's what we're aiming for, okay? So the best thing you can do is hold those questions because, again, if you ask them while I'm teaching, I probably will not see them, all right? But I'll do the best I can. And here's the final thing I'm going to say, right? The final thing is make sure you stay till the very end. We teased this a little bit in the email, but the reason why I'm saying that is because we're going to cover a lot of ground in a very short period of time. I have a very special invitation for you at the very end. But then those of you that stick around till my final goodbye, and we will know who you are, we have a very, very special exclusive gift for you. It's a hot off the press download resource that we created. I'm not going to tell you about it right now. It's a surprise. You got to wait until the very end. Stick it out. Hang out with us. Take your lunch. Some of you, if you're in Eastern Standard Time, you're on your lunch break right now. But you got to wait till the very end. So stick around. Hang out with us. Man, this is going to be fun. So here's what we're going to do. Ready to go. I am going to share my screen. Let's see if this thing works, and it should work just fine. And if it does, you're going to see my slides coming up on the screen that says how to effectively respond to behavior. So can everybody see this okay? Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can, or a yeehaw, or a yeah, buddy, something like that. I'm watching the chat on my secondary monitor. Thumbs up. We got it. Yeehaw. I see it. I love it. Yes, 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 yes. We're good to go, which also means you can hear me, which is also a good thing. So let's jump into this. How to effectively respond to behaviors. And actually, let me keep that chat up for just a minute. Yeah, everybody can see it. I love it, right? And let me start. I already talked about the behavior response blueprint. You guys have that. But here's the question I want to start off with. Why are you here? Why are you here? Why did you sign up for a webinar, a 90-minute webinar entitled How to Effectively Respond to Your Child's Behaviors? If you would, drop it in the chat. I'm watching the chat right now. Why are you here? Why did you sign up for this? What is going on in your world to cause you to be here? Brenda says, I want information to share with adoptive families I work with. I love it. I love it because their behaviors are extreme and also confusing. Crystal, I'm right there with you 100%. It was a big part of our story. Helping me better cope with my son's behaviors because I explode as well. Wow, you guys, here it goes, man. Rapid fire. Foster parent training hours. Hey, yeah, I love that you're here. To support foster adoptive families I work with, foster parent training. I want a better relationship with my kid. Yes, I love it. I love it. Wow, I'm overwhelmed. Kids' behaviors, extreme behaviors. Parenting is hard. Yes, it is, Patty. I totally agree. Adoptive parent of 4 adopted kids, 4 adopted teens. Teresa, I'm right there with you because it is so hard to understand. I struggle with my child with an FASD for 23 years. Yeah. I have a 19-year-old child who has an FASD. I get it. We need all the info we can get. Christina, I agree with you completely. I love it. These answers, guys. The reason why I asked this is because as we look at this chat, as I'm looking at your answers, I personally don't feel so alone. I don't. Do you feel that sense of solidarity? Here's why I say that. The reason why I want to start here is that, and somebody just said this a moment ago in the chat, this is hard. Parenting is hard. Anybody, hands raised, thumbs up, just feel completely, totally exhausted or without answers. I have no answers. I have no framework. I have no system, right? Anybody? Yeah, I get a thumbs up. I get a yup. Yeah, guys, this is hard. And a little bit of solidarity as we start off here. I am right there with you. I am right there with you on this journey. I am still figuring this out. The framework that I'm going to walk you through, I believe in it. It is a framework that we have learned, that we have sat through thousands of hours of training, and out of that created this framework. It's about consistently applying it. But at the end of the day, this is hard stuff. And we need all the information we can get. We need all the help we can get. But most importantly, we need one another. If you've been hanging around Honestly Adoption for any amount of time, you know that we are big on community. We do these webinars to equip you. But also, like as I'm looking at all the participants, let me see how many of you guys, there's over 100, there's close to 100, closing on 150 of you guys. There's over 350 people signed up for this. A lot of you are going to watch this replay. But the fact that we can all join together and just simply share, like, this is hard. I'm overwhelmed. I've been trying for 23 years. I'm parenting a child with an FASD. right? I'm completely lost. I feel alone. Just the fact that we can get on here and we can just say that right here in the chat. It gives us hope. It gives us strength. So this is why I want to start here, right? No matter whatever reason, you are in this place, you are watching this training, even if you're watching the replay, solidarity and knowing that we are on this journey together and we are working to figure this thing out together, right? I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you've decided to hang out with me for a little bit here. And I really think you're going to learn a lot. Totally. I believe in what we're talking about today. I believe that it can work. It does work, right? I see it in my own household. And you guys get this. Every single day is a struggle, right? Every single day is a struggle. Trauma doesn't play by the rules. We know that, right? We know that those of you that are parenting a child with an FASD, you know it is moment by moment that this day does not look like this day over here, right? The successes you had in this day will not carry over. Likewise, the failures often won't carry over. It is moment to moment, right? I get it, totally. So I'm glad you're here. I want to tell you a little bit of a story, okay? Just a little bit of where this came from. This is a picture of our family from 14 years ago. 14 years ago, this picture was taken. I have another picture I want to show you too. This was a little bit more recent. This was probably, maybe 2 or 3 years after this picture. These two pictures, this picture, lots of smiles. There's Santa Claus in the picture, for crying out loud, right? Have to be smiling with that, right? Lots of smiles. From the outside looking in, a family that was just together and cohesive and connected. Let's talk truth. What you don't see in this picture or this picture is complete and utter chaos. We were dealing with situations that was nothing short of crisis. And I'm sure a lot of you can identify with that. A lot of you are right there. As I look at these pictures, there is joy because I love these human beings more than anything on this earth. But I can also say that this was a really, really hard 5 years. I know I keep bouncing back and forth on you, but really hard couple of years where we were struggling. And here's the deal. When it came to behaviors, two things. Number one, we tried to parent the traditional way, the way that we were parented. Bet you can guess that it did not work, right? Because a lot of you have tried that, right? You were like, well, my parents parented me this way, so I'll parent this way. And you tried to parent this child the way that your parents parented you, and you pretty quickly learned that traditional parenting methods do not work, right? We were trying that, number one. Number two, we had no answers or framework. We had no understanding. We could not figure out why, when this child seemingly had everything, that in quotes, had everything, because we know the unmet need, right? Which we'll get into that, right? While this child seemed like they had everything, they weren't happy about anything. And why was that, right? And furthermore, we recognized really quick that the stress for us was rising. We were totally hopeless and totally lost. I look at these two pictures and I remember that clearly. I know the struggle. But I want to tell you something. Right about 2011, 2012, so it was about a 3 to 4 year span, we hit a wall. And we realized very, very quickly that this was killing us. This lack of understanding, this lack of knowing what was going on with our children was totally, completely destroying our family. It was tearing us apart. And much like the person said in the chat a moment ago, like I personally, me, I'm just pointing two thumbs at me. I was handling things the complete wrong way. And long story short, what what Kristen and I decided to do was we decided that it was time for a change. We didn't know what that looked like, but we knew it had to happen. And it started by joining a small group, a support group in Indianapolis, Indiana. This was back in 2011, where we suddenly came face to face with the reality that there was so much more going on with our children. That it wasn't just a bad kid behaving badly, which is what I had concluded, right? And when we conclude that about our kids, that's how we respond to our kids, right? That they are a bad kid behaving badly. But that was not what was. There was so much more going on. And we came face to face with that reality. And we, in the same sense, all of a sudden realized things need to be different. And we dove in deeply to sitting at the feet of people like Deborah Gray, world-renowned attachment therapist specialist, right? Dr. Karen Purvis, and you guys know that name, right? The framework for connected parenting. Dr. Ira Chasnoff, Bruce Perry. We immersed ourselves in every single book and video and seminar and conference. And out of that, we recognized that the way that we were responding to our children's behaviors was a big part of the problem. And I'm going to get into that here in just a little bit, right? But that was a big part of the problem. And we needed to change our response. And out of that, the foundation for the behavior response blueprint came about, because what we learned, we realized, man, this is changing things for us. It's not making things perfect, right? I mean, every day is a battle, right? We have to apply these strategies every single day, right? It wasn't making it perfect, but what we could clearly recognize was that it was providing a solution for us, an answer for us. And that began to change things, transform things for us for the better. And out of that, it's the same transformation that it's our heart's passion to share that with you. That's what we've dedicated our life's work to. Our books, our conferences, our webinars, our paid products, our courses. It's all dedicated to helping you experience that same transformation. Right? That's our story. That's how this training has come about. Right? So here's the question we're asking in this training. How do we effectively respond to behaviors? How do we effectively respond to behaviors? Let me say this again, a little bit of emphasis. How do we effectively respond to behaviors? I've underlined we and I've underlined respond for a very, very specific reason. This is about us. And this is about our response. What we are not going to talk about in this training is control or behavior modification, right? What we are going to talk about is us as caregivers and the way that we respond and how we can respond differently to our kids. Here's what it's about. It's about us as caregivers. It's about our response. One of the biggest reasons why things began to change for us back in 2011, 2012, after we were in the middle of this crisis, and we've had other crisis moments since then. Don't make no mistake, right? We are still learning and growing every day. But one of the biggest things that changed for us was our response. It wasn't our kids' behaviors, right? Because that's not what this training's about. It's not about controlling behaviors. It's not about stopping behaviors. You can't. I said it a moment ago, trauma doesn't play by the rules. It is a process. It's about consistency. So what changed for us was we had to change ourselves. We had to change the way we responded to our kids. So it's about us as caregivers. It's about our response. We cannot expect our kids to change. We must change. Now, here's the encouragement in that, right? It is about us, yes. But the encouragement there, when I look back 14 years, 11 years, 10, 12 years in the past, the one thing I can say about us changing and not expecting our kids to change, not because we can't change them, right? When we changed our response, what it did was it opened up all of this space for healing to begin to take place. And that is really the journey we've been on for the last decade, is a journey of healing. And there are good days and there are bad days. And there are days that are in between. And sometimes there's weeks where it's a struggle. But what stays the same is how we respond and the consistency that we actually respond, right? How consistent we stay with our response. So where do we begin? Where do we begin with talking about changing our response? Well, for us, and if you've been in any of our trainings, you know that this is really the foundation. This is the basis for where we begin everything, right? We begin by getting into some brain science, right? Not too in depth. I'm a parent. I'm a caregiver. I'm a coach and I'm a parent trainer. I am not a neurosurgeon. I am not a doctor, right? But I have spent a lot of time diving into brain science because it's fascinating. And there's a lot of things to learn about the brain, right? But for our purposes, because most of you here are caregivers, right? For our purposes, when we talk about the foundation and how trauma has affected the brain, we really start off with 3 areas. The prefrontal cortex, which is this part of our brain right here, logic and reasoning and impulse control and self-control. Then there's a little center almond-shaped deal called the amygdala. That's our brain's alarm system, right? That lets us know when we're hungry, when we're tired, when we're afraid, when we're angry, you name it, right? And then back here is the brainstem, right? This is really the bridge, man. The engine's right here, the machine is right here. This brainstem back here is the bridge that connects it, right? So my hands are moving and I'm breathing and I'm functional because this brainstem is connecting my brain to my body. So prefrontal cortex, logic and reasoning, amygdala, the alarm system, brainstem, survival, right? A lot of you already know this, right? This is like trauma 101, trauma knowledge 101. This is brain science 101. Now you notice that there's a little blue arrow on this little diagram here. The blue arrow represents the neural pathway, right? Now, our brains are filled with all kinds of neural pathways. Information highways is really what they are, right? But for this purpose, there's one really crucial neural pathway, and that is the pathway from our prefrontal cortex to our brainstem, right? So right now, you are attending this training, and I'm hoping that you're calm and everything's going well for you. I feel calm. I feel excited, as you can tell. That's because right here in my prefrontal cortex, I'm thinking logically, I'm reasoning through the content I'm giving you. I am in control of myself, and this part of my brain that represents self-control, impulse control, logic, reasoning is communicating through that neural pathway, that information highway, right here to my brainstem, like everything's good, right? We're excited to be here. This is a fun training to go through. It's fun to connect with people from all over the world. That's what that neural pathway is communicating to me, right? And for you, it's communicating that, hey, we're good right now. Everything is at peace. Everything's well with the world, right? You may have some stresses, but overall, the pathway is open, right? Now, when it comes to trauma, whether it's acute trauma, chronic trauma, what happens with our brains, and when it comes to chronic trauma, this is definitely indicative of the children that you're raising, children I'm raising, right? But acute trauma, a scary one-time event, chronic trauma, prolonged trauma, malnourishment, abuse, neglect, housing insecurities, food insecurities, you name it. What happens with that neural pathway, it's kind of like a rock slide, right? So acute trauma, a scary one-time event, chronic trauma, both one and the same, right? Whether it's a scary one-time event over and over again, what happens is in those moments, that amygdala, that alarm system pops, right? So right there in the center of the screen where I had placed the amygdala, the alarm, that pops. And what happens when that pops is it's kind of like a rock slide over the neural pathway, the highway, the information highway, right? Communication between the prefrontal cortex and the brainstem is completely severed when that amygdala is popped, because in that moment, the alarm system is going off and it's saying things like, the building's on fire, get out, or you're afraid, flee, or you're hungry right now, you're tired, you're overwhelmed, you're angry, right? And when that amygdala pops, it overtakes the rest of your brain and disrupts this neural pathway, this information highway. So this is very indicative of what happens with your children. And when this happens, what we see with our children are behaviors like greed, a kid who's greedy, lying, manipulation, stealing, fear, aggression, class clown, hoarding, entitled, defiant. You'll see the fight, flight, or freeze, kind of the well-known trauma responses. Some of you could tell me, and this behavior, and this behavior, and this behavior, and this behavior, and you would be absolutely right? When that amygdala flips and that neural pathway is disrupted, and there's no more communication from the part of our brain that's logical, that reasons through things, that is responsible for impulse control, self-control, that there's no more communication to the brainstem. And now functionality comes from the brainstem, which is survival. So a lot of you are parenting children that are in survival mode often, right? So here's the next question. What do we do? What do we do when we see these types of behaviors, right? When we can tell that our children are escalating? Well, what I want to walk you through in this training is a 4-step response plan. It's our behavior response blueprint. And I'm just going to put all 4 of these on the screen. Number 1, regulate yourself first. Number 2, validate the emotions the child is expressing. 3, investigate the behavior. And 4, help your child re-regulate. 4-step response plan: regulate, validate, investigate, re-regulate. Let's break these down and look at these each individually. Number 1, regulate yourself first. If I could say it like this, I believe that the number 1 step to successful or effective behavior response, if I could say it like this, that has to do with us. The number 1 secret to where you need to begin with effective behavior response is making sure that you are regulated first. We have to model regulation first as the caregivers. That's where behavior response begins, right? If our emotions are not under control, we can't expect our child's to be. We can't. This may be stepping on some of your toes, right? Some of you may be like, ooh, ouch, that hurts, right? I'm stepping on my toes too, right? This is something I have to consistently remind myself. Mike, if you're losing your cool, he's going to lose his cool. Me not having my emotions regulated is like trying to put out a campfire with a can of gasoline, right?
Thank you for listening to the Honestly Adoption Podcast, a resource courtesy of the Honestly Adoption Company. To learn more about us, visit www.honestlyadoption.com.